You're listening to the Faith and Friction Podcast with your hosts, Mac and the Rev. Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to we're going to call it a conversation, but for this one, Rev, man, it's the 4-point harness. It's not the seatbelt, brother.
I feel like I'm making it to the major leagues with this topic, and I may be a little out of my league, but I'm going to do my best.
I'll tell you what, this is going to be one for the archives, I got a feeling. This one and probably part two, because there's so much involved with what's going on in the world right now. And I hate to say it, but it's a perfect storm setup for faith and friction.
Right smack dab in our face, on our television, in our lives.
Oh my gosh. So as you can imagine, guess what we're going to talk about on this episode? We're going to talk about faith and friction as it's developing in the Middle East right now. We can't not talk about it. Come on.
Yeah.
Seriously?
There are a lot of people that say you cannot talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't go in there. It's too scary. But the reality is this podcast is designed to lean into the places that are uncomfortable. The new stadium, the major leagues, and those conversations that are happening on the planet that perhaps there's a different way to look at it. Or
perhaps
a more productive way to look at it. Somehow there's got to be some good that we can take from it, excavate from.
That's true. And I think part of the faith part of this friction, and this part one, because we're probably going to do part two.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to focus on mostly the faith-based, the religious components, the spiritual side of some of the stuff that's going on, and how do we look at it, and what might we have to call out on a little bit, or some perspectives that we think are misguided.
Well, and how can we contextualize very human conditions from a spiritual mindset, consciousness?
Right.
That's not always easy to do. And without spiritual bypassing, without just making it all beautiful and light, it's not all beautiful and light. So how do we live fully human and have a divine perspective of what's happening?
Amen, man. That's going to be the challenge tonight, and I think we can do it, brother. I really do. Okay?
Giddy up.
So here we go. So broad brushstroke says that when we have this kind of thing going on, it's spreading. It started at it's a continuation even of what was going on in Gaza. And now we're getting bigger and bigger. The mushroom cloud's getting bigger and bigger. No pun intended there, okay? Mm-hmm. But we're dealing with basically 4 different categories, I'll call them for lack of a better word. You've got the geopolitical friction that any kind of aggression like this causes, any kind of bomb dropping or boots on the ground or whatever.
There's consequences. Actions have consequences.
Exactly, right? Religious, of course. We've got Christians, we've got Jews, and we've got Muslims all involved, plus nuns.
Which goes back historically.
Yes.
Let's just go back to Isaac and Ishmael. This is when it all began, was a fight within a family. So we have a family feud going on.
And and I'm going to, little spoiler alert here, to think that anybody, I'm not saying we can't make progress. Let me just make that up. But to think that you're going to go in one fell swoop and solve the problem, all right?
Yeah.
That's just, that's naive, all right? Anyway, so we've
got taken us this long to get here. It's going to take some time to get back.
Good grief. And again, I'm not saying we don't have to work on it. Okay, you make the world a better place. I get that, all right? Then we've got the economic issues, and we were talking about this earlier in the pre-show, that don't think that anytime any of this happens, I don't mean just with this conflict, any conflict around the globe for all time, at the root, typically, it's about the Benjamins. It's about somebody wants somebody else's stuff, all right? What can I do to grow my whatever and make more wealth, more prosperity, all of that? And you can't possibly take that out of
the human ego is involved in this. We can spiritualize it all we want, but there is human ego. Then it's like that scene from Finding Nemo. Mine. This is mine. God ordained me to have this, not you. And that goes back to that original conflict. And money's there. Money, land, power, it's all
absolutely. It's all there, and it will continue to be there. You can't take it out of the equation.
No.
We might be able to mitigate it somewhat, but don't stick your head in the sand over it, because the next question you need to ask about anything is, who does this benefit and how?
Yep, exactly.
It's just all part of it, all right? And then lastly, of course, you got economic, which kind of goes along with the religious, but the economics, the global economic ripple effect, again, that any conflict like this has. Smaller conflicts don't have as much of a ripple effect, but when you get the United States involved, all right, and the Middle East with one of the most important natural resources on the planet, oil, oh my gosh, here we go.
And that's usually when people get interested. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal until it affects me. Oh, now it's in my backyard. Now it's affecting me. And I'm telling you, what's going on there in the Middle East is going to affect all of us.
Absolutely.
Nobody is immune to the effects of this.
No matter what side of the equation you're on that one, just be prepared. It's
Consequences.
Funny. I was talking to somebody this morning, and if you looked at the stock market when it opened this morning, it was tanking, right? Now it rebounded today, that kind of thing. But if you're prepared, you better be prepared that if we're going to have global conflict, it's going to affect not only everything we've just been talking about, but your pocketbook as well. All right, directly. Yeah. What's your 401k look like? All right. And you just better be prepared.
I did the wisest people in my life, every decision I've made, whether it be my career, whether it be money, be investment, is think 4 steps ahead, 5 steps ahead. And where we get into danger is if we haven't a strategy, a plan, 5, 6, 10 steps ahead, the effects that were going to happen. When you throw that rock into the pool, there's ripples. Be aware of what those ripples are, and they will come back to bite us in the butt. We need to be awake and aware.
You can't be constantly operating in reactionary mode, because that's what ends up happening when you don't think through it. You're just knee-jerking. Your fear definitely crawls in there.
Game of chess, the game of war, the game of being a human being.
So those are overlying areas where all of this stuff is intermingled. You can't separate any of it, but that's what we're going to be dealing with in the probably 2 episodes that we're going to deal with here. Yeah. And just be aware of that, all right? Now, the other thing we were talking about in the pre-show was, yes, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. And depending upon how you look at it, we got negative, we got positive, all degrees in between-ish. But why don't we start out? Why don't you and I just start out maybe with some nuggets of suggestion about as we go through this, or tomorrow, or the next day as you're living your life, what might be some perspectives that we ought to try?
You're in my ballpark and in my arena, because I got to make sure that I'm right. Yeah. I'm right with my belief system and my God before I act out of an anger, out of a place of my own ego. I love the list that you've created here. Yeah. First and foremost, I teach every single Sunday. Take it to prayer. Take it to a higher power that's above my ego. Take it to some wisdom that's maybe seeing something I can't see.
Oh, I hope so. Because to me, some of my reactions over all of this, and since Saturday, if you were, even it trickles in from before, if I hadn't had a practice and a cultivation of my spirituality, of my consciousness, and I'm certainly not saying I'm there, if there's a there.
No, but you're better than you were yesterday.
Well, that's exactly right. I would have reacted differently to this 2 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it might be. So that's part of the challenge and encouragement to keep doing the work. Okay.
Yep.
So pray. And we talk about this all the time, no matter what the topic is, because we're talking faith and friction. Seek to understand. You may not agree. We already talk about that all the time. But why is that happening? Why is this person reacting this way? Why have they decided to do this? And you peel the onion back as far as you can. Some of the stuff you have no idea. You got
to examine the mindset of that prayer. Is it to understand? Is it to change God's mind, which is not what prayer really does, or to change somebody else's mind, or to make somebody be vanquished or disappear? Or is it to help me see what I am missing? Help me. It's about changing us. It's not about changing God. And that starts with being willing to understand and not just be right.
Wow, yeah. That takes some exhale, because you want to go right from one thing into the, you want to point the finger.
No matter the religion involved in this conflict right now, spiritual maturity must be on display, or it's going to get much darker before it gets brighter. We must be acting from a spiritually grounded and anchored place. Yeah. Whether we're in the government or whether we're just
sending the
Joe
energy.
Schmo leading a small little church in Georgia, I must be reacting and contextualizing my words and my responses from a spiritual place.
Well, you're sending out the right kind of energy too.
Yep.
It will have its effect. So this is really important. So you got to seek to understand the best that you can to give you a place of greater understanding and resonance than you would have had if you didn't. I guess that's what we're saying, right?
It keeps me from being just another radical. It keeps me from
Spouting.
dismissing another human being.
Yeah.
And I teach oneness all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm reacting from just attack, that idea of oneness has no place in my field. I'm not doing any good to the planet.
At that point, it's I'm one.
Yeah.
I'm oneness.
I'm one,
Here
and
I am.
I win.
So that's that. And the other point I put on here is don't be dismissive or radical. Now,
Yeah.
that's this pendulum swinging either way too far than it should. I'm not justifying A or B or at this point anything. It's just saying if you take a radical approach toward what you're seeing and how you feel and what you think, you're not going to be looking at it with a wisdom and with the proper mindset, because you're going to be angry, you're going to be biased to a point where you can't really look at it the right way. And I think we got to be careful of that, right?
If we shut down any part of ourselves, which includes wisdom, by just being reactionary,
Yeah.
we're in trouble.
Wow.
We are adding to the problem. And
Yeah.
we're perpetuating it for years and years to come. There has to be a greater solution. I don't know what it is. Again, I'm in a
Right.
ballpark that's new to me,
Yeah.
but I have to know that there is a better solution than what I'm seeing right now and what the world's seeing right now.
We got to pray for that. That's number one. There was number one. All right. How about just the idea of compassion, just across the board? What almost every faith-based practice teaches love, and just an understanding to the best that we can that we're going to kind of default to the compassion side and then get tossed to and fro probably by all the other junk that comes along. But there's the cultivating.
And you didn't
spiritual
even
thing.
mention one of the religions that's right there in them. They've
Yeah.
been persecuted.
Oh, that's
in Iran is Bahá'ísm.
Yeah.
The Bahá'ís have been put to death, been taken things away from them for years, 47 years of oppression there. And I talked to a couple of them yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, what insight that had to be. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
and there is hope that the
Yeah.
oppression may be stopping.
Well,
There is
maybe.
also compassion. There is also an awareness of the suffering that is happening, that has happened, and that can still happen if
Oh,
they
yeah.
react from a place of let's just throw a party and celebrate ding dong, the witch is dead. You know?
I don't have any red slippers. Do you red shoes? I don't have glittering red shoes, man. I don't want to go back to Kansas. So you're exactly right. Yeah. And where do you draw that? How do you? It's hard. It's hard no matter what place you come from in this whole conflict to have compassion for whoever's not like you.
Suffering. If I lose my capacity that people are suffering on all sides,
Yes.
whether I agree with them or not, I've lost something. I believe I've lost that God connection.
Yes. And it's easy to do, as we're going to talk about, when you want to throw the God card and God's on your side, and then all of a sudden things really get skewed.
Yeah, I
So-
need to understand there's no private good and there's no private suffering.
Yeah.
So when
Oh.
somebody is
Hello.
suffering, I need to have the capacity to feel the pain for those people.
Yeah.
And there are people suffering, and there's going to be more suffering if
Oh my
this
God.
as this continues more and more. And that means American lives who are lost in families, Iranian lives that are lost and their families, my Baha'i friends who have families that are going to lose their lives. I just need to sit for a moment in the silence and be compassionate.
Oh. It's just my heart's been so grieved. I told you that when you came over today. It just grieves me deeply over not only what's going on, but a lot of times how it's being looked at. So anyway, compassion, yeah. And the other thing is all of us have a faith, right? Faith and friction. And we place that faith toward people, toward ideologies, toward countries, it doesn't matter. We do it all the time, right? And do we ever step back and go, have I placed my faith at all in the right place? Have I ever examined it? Now, if you come in the same place, it's fine. But have you ever really examined what you're placing your faith in? And then does that, if you objectively look at that, does it really align with who you are and what you really want? Tough questions to ask, huh?
The question I get to ask is, how big is the God that I believe in, or the life that I believe in, the love that I believe in? Is there an edge to it? When things start to blow up, is my faith being rocked as bombs are going off?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this God I believed in, how could this happen? Or
Right.
this love that I believe in, is it really stupid? Let's get real. Those questions go, I got to toughen up a little bit. Love is not going to win this. Or is it not a matter of winning on my side or somebody else's side? It's just having my faith be stretched enough that I'm going to have a bigger God at the end of this. That's my hope, is for everybody, a bigger and truer version of this entity, this energy called God, for Muslims, for Christians, for Jews, for Baha'is, for atheists.
Hello, everybody. Just everybody's in the pot.
Everybody. Wow, we were missing the whole point.
Adventures in Missing the
And
Point.
I have to believe there are even Iranian soldiers right now that are questioning, going, what are we fighting for?
Yeah.
And I hope that our government is also asking that. What am I fighting for?
What it would be, we're going to get to that. What's the end game? It just can't be drop bombs. Okay. You got to be able to think through it and rationally and all that. So
That's
anyway,
schoolyard tactics. I'm bigger than you are. I'm tougher. I'm stronger. I can beat you
boom,
up.
boom. And then lastly, as a thought, have the right alignment. And that kind of, we talk about alignment all the time, but be in alignment with yourself, with your higher self,
Your morals.
with, yes, all of that, with your higher consciousness, with your beliefs about God and the power, the bigger power,
Even
whatever.
to take God out of the equation, the gifts, the understanding and beliefs in the sanctity of life.
Yeah, there you go.
Before something is done or I react, be aware that I'm holding the sanctity of life right there.
Yes.
Whether it's being held on the other side or not, because
Right.
what's happened here, this started with the taking out of somebody who did not hold that sanctity of life. I want to acknowledge that.
Yeah,
But it's keeping that compassion at the forefront.
and couching it in the bigger picture of, yes, that needed to be done, and yet. So again, the alignment needs to be all the way up and down, but it's so easy to default and act and think in accordance with the fear factor. Almost always that takes over. And we have to not give our power away to the fear of A, B, C, and D, the what if, the oh my gosh, this could happen.
When
right?
is an animal the most dangerous?
When it's
When
cornered.
it's afraid.
Yeah.
It hurts and
Yeah.
it's afraid. And if we react, we are human animals, when we are afraid and we are hurt, we are the most dangerous. We need to be very careful.
I love that analogy.
We'll
You're
end up
exactly
biting
right.
the hand that's trying to feed us and protect us.
Yes. And so we act in very irrational, and yet we'll rationalize every single bit of it. All right.
Yep.
But fear of military might. Who's got the bigger stick, right?
Yep.
What's going on here? So we get fearful of the what if. Now, nuclear bombs. Who's going to bomb us? Who's going to do this? Who's going to be a terrorist?
Well, there's a whole other equation. We can have those, but you can't. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So we just had to be careful of that military might, and especially here in America, in the United States with the current administration, but not exclusively. I won't say that. But there's a much more greater emphasis on this administration with, we want the big stick. Okay.
Yep.
We want to have a much bigger military. We want to, and I've been questioning the fact that we're the world's policeman for many years, and not just in this
Well,
administration.
Scripture tells us, if we're going to look at the God of the Bible, it's not by might, it's not by power, it's not by force, it's not by this violent attack that the kingdom will rise.
Right.
It's by a softer presence. So let's be
what-
careful when we're using God as the
club.
justification for doing whatever we're doing.
That happens
He
a lot.
clearly says it's not going to be of might and power. And Jesus himself said, put the sword down. I don't come by that sword.
Yes. Hello. Have you been reading that? I'm not sure. So I thought this was a nuance. Aggression versus friction. We can have friction. You were talking about this earlier. There can be degrees of friction, and it can be good, and it can be helpful, and it can take us to a certain place. But when that friction is a result of, or then creates aggression, either way. Oh, I'm going to raise the level of this friction because it feels good and because I'm in control. Now I'm going to get aggressive.
This is the examination of intention. What is the intention? Because it will become aggressive with a bad intention or wrong intention.
Yes.
And so examining my motives. First, start with me. What are my intentions? For peace, for harmony, for healing, for safety, for whatever? Or is it just to be right and to win and to battle and to get whatever, ego-based?
It's introspection again. You talk about that all the time.
But I have the
What's my
right, if I'm
motivation?
doing my own introspection, to ask you, sitting across the table from me, as maybe my adversary, or we have friction, to say, I want to know what your intention is. Can we have a real conversation? If we can't, then it is aggression.
I agree.
For an ulterior motive.
So just be aware of the differences and the subtleties. Most of the time, we're all this way, not just this. We have fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's just going to permeate all of this, all the way around.
Well,
What's
that's what I've
next?
got. That's what I've got going on. I don't have any answers as to what's going on.
Yeah.
And as I sit in my contemplation, it's a great mystery. But I'm trying to make peace with the mystery and not point fingers, blame and shame, and go, there's got to be a greater answer here. But that unknown is a very scary place for me.
It is. And what in life, forget about who's dropping bombs when and what's going to be the effect. What I've found, where I gravitated to, was instead of wanting certainty and all the answers, okay, I should be able to get the answer because God's got the truth and he's going to give me the truth. For me, it was way more about just cultivating a sense of my spirit that I was connected in the greater way, like you were talking about earlier, the higher way. Then you know what? Whatever's coming down the pike, I got no idea. But I believe that I'm better equipped, if you will, from a heart, from a head, a consciousness standpoint, to be able to grid it properly and absorb it and whatever than I would have been if I'm just...
To respond rather than react.
Yes.
I'm on my toes.
Good point.
I'm poised.
I'm
anchored. I'm connected to something greater. And so I'm prepared to not just add fuel to the fire, but to be a stopping ground for a greater reality.
Yeah. And the more we're on social media and the more we're watching the news and all that, we're going to get pulled around and jerked around.
It's designed to do that,
to
fire you up and to get you off kilter.
Yes. So last couple things before we want to jump into the next thing is just going to be, we got to be careful how we treat the other side. We can conjure up all sorts of boogeyman kinds of perspectives. And as you said earlier, this current thing, he was a pretty bad guy.
Yep.
There's bad guys and there's bad women. They're out there. They're bad people, aren't? So yes, you have to deal with those kinds of situations for sure. At the same time, it's very easy to go from that bad person to their bad people.
Yep.
And it's a short little jump between the two.
And our human ego does that so quickly.
Yeah.
This is where racism comes from. This is where all wars actually start. If that person is like that, then everybody's like that because of their color, because of their religion, and that's a very dangerous place.
Well, again, once you take out that person, the boogeyman, then who else you got to point fingers at? It's way easier to still have somebody to be against than it is to be for something. We love to default to the against. It's way easier. But now, then what? Then now what? The therefore. We talk about the therefore all the time.
And I think that I mentioned earlier the Iranian soldier who's there. Oh, it's just easy. He's just been supporting it. He's been oppressed as well.
Sure.
That maybe if I can energetically see him as being oppressed as opposed to being an evil, awful, just like Khomeini here.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a possibility that he'll turn around and say, thank God, I'm finally free. There could be a freedom here.
You got to acknowledge that. You would hope so.
I teach it every single Sunday. The inherent good of all people.
Yes.
That's been forgotten, covered up, pushed off to the side for selfish, egotistical motives. But I have to believe that if I can not lose that compassion and that understanding we talked about, that there is possibility for transformation. And that would be God's kingdom coming back. There's no possibility of God's kingdom coming back if I say they're all like that. All Muslims are like that. All Iranians are like that. I happen to have very close friends who are Iranian.
Yes.
And they do have a sense of hope with what's changing, but they also have a very deep sense of fear of the unknown. What's going to happen here?
Of course.
My family may be bombed over there.
Yeah. Yeah. It all goes into, you can't, we're going to do this, but that's not going to be a ripple effect or this or that. It all goes as part of the whole. You can't separate it out and think you can.
We cannot dehumanize
any
group of people.
This is one of the things that I'm having a little problem with right now when it comes to the church. Yeah. And that's the inability to be able to say, we might be behind what's going on for all kinds of reasons, which we're going to talk about. And yet at the same time, how have we lost? First thing we ought to lead with is compassion and grief and for the people that are dying, because people are dying.
Yep.
And
more are going to die.
And more are going to die. So I got a little rub about that whole thing as I talk to folks. All right. So that sets us up, man. Okay, we're going to definitely have part 2, right?
Part 47.
So what are we going to do with next? I want to play a clip, and I did edit it because it was too long to start with, but there is a large evangelical Baptist church in Texas, Megachurch. And the pastor of that church, this last Sunday, which is basically the next day of what started this whole thing, he gave a little talk after his sermon and right at the very end, and you'll hear him say, before we get into the giving part and things like that, that he talked about this whole deal and how he looked at it. And in turn, he intoned that this is the way we look at it. He's got 10,000 people in this room.
Yep.
All right. So I want to play this in its entirety because it's only a couple minutes long. All right.
Okay.
We're going to play it so that everybody can just get in their head on the flow of this thing and where they started, where they ended. Then what I want to do is we're going to come back and we're going to break it up a little bit. And we're going to section it off. We're going to play a little bit of it. And then we're going to comment on it from a faith and friction standpoint.
And I want to be practicing what I preach. I'm going to listen with non-judgment.
There you go.
And just an open heart to understand first before I go ballistic.
Okay, I'll grant you that. All right, so let's just listen to the thing in its entirety with no breaks.
There's been a lot of debate in our country, especially the last few months, about whether America should support Israel and to what extent should we support Israel. And Tucker was ridiculing Ted Cruz for saying that as Christians, we were mandated to support Israel. Support Israel, first of all, means to support Israel's right to exist. The nation of Iran does not believe Israel has the right to exist. Iran has its stated objective to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And there are other countries that believe that as well. But in doing so, they are going against God himself. Unlike any other nation in the world, God created the nation of Israel. Israel was his idea, and he said Israel will endure forever. And second, to support Israel means to support Israel's right to exist in her land. You listen to the left, listen to what's being taught on college campuses, they will have you believe that this land belongs to the Palestinians. It's been theirs. And just in the last 50 years, Israel tried to come and steal the land that belonged to those poor Palestinians. Nothing could be further from the truth. We know that Israel occupied that land at least 3,000 years ago. It was theirs because God gave it to them. And he said, this land will be yours forever. Those who oppose Israel are always on the wrong side of history, and most importantly, they're on the wrong side of God. And thank God we finally have a president who understands that truth. So Thursday, I texted him, and I just reminded him that there are millions of Christians who pray for him every day. And I said, Mr. President, the vast majority of those Christians are going to trust you and support whatever decision you make. He not only removed a menace, a threat to the nation of Israel, but he removed a threat to America and removed a threat to the entire world. But only President Trump had the courage to make that hard decision. And he ought to be thanked for doing that. I don't know if you saw his brief 4-minute speech that he gave after the mission was accomplished. But in that statement, he said, I want to thank everybody, but in particular, I want to thank God. And I just want to say, we love you, God. Have you ever heard another president say that? Republican or Democrat? Breathe.
Oh, boy. I'm going to be the first one to say that I might be losing my salvation here. All right. I just, oh my God. The first time I heard that, and of course there's more to it because I edited some of it out. So without further ado, where do we go with that, huh?
Looking for the positive here, my reaction to it, he is calling for a support of a people for Israel. He is calling for their rights to not be violated, calling for their inherent value to not be devalued. So I'm going to start there.
Okay, that's fair.
But the God that I believe in says the inherent value of all people. Of all people, not just a chosen. I don't believe in a chosen people. I think we're all chosen by God. This idea that there's one land, only one land that God has ordained for a group of people is ridiculous. The gift of the earth. And we as stewards of the earth were given this whole gift. And I think we've screwed it up by drawing borders and boundaries. And don't get me started on the Native American people.
Well, that's going to come out.
I hope you're going to bring that up.
Absolutely.
The reality is,
okay.
So I will put a light on the fact that there is support for human beings.
Sure.
It's at the exclusion of other human beings. And that was where I got off the train.
Yes. And the overarching thing here is God's on our side and we're doing what God wants us to do. And we've talked about this on several of our episodes. And boy, oh boy, that's a slippery slope. All right. It can justify just about anything.
When the God I believe in is not a God of violence.
Yeah.
Jesus, the man that I follow, was not a man of violence. And so I will stand against that. Yes, what has happened in Iran has been violence for a very long time. I'm against that.
Sure.
But I'm also against violence for violence, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and we're all blind and toothless. And the reality is we need to find the higher order and the higher way to do this. And it's not just fire for fire.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a perspective and that's a matter of the heart that we all have to cultivate to get ourselves a little different perspective on the whole thing.
So your first paragraph, Israel's right to exist. I absolutely agree.
Well, here we go. Let's play that paragraph just so people can understand what we're going to talk about. Hold on.
There's been a lot of debate in our country, especially the last few months, about whether America should support Israel and to what extent should we support Israel. And Tucker was ridiculing Ted Cruz for saying that as Christians, we were mandated to support Israel. Support Israel, first of all, means to support Israel's right to exist.
All right. There's the first part of that.
Let me go. Mandated, I believe we are mandated not just as Christians, as human beings, as spiritual beings, we are mandated to love. This is what I understand the commandments from Jesus would. Love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say love your Christian neighbors. He said love your neighbor, period. And so, yes, I believe it is a mandate. The law for us as human beings to take this precious gift of the earth and our humanity and love everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree to a point, but there's a stopping point to it because there's a stopping point to the love as this man is preaching it.
And in case you didn't pick up on it, I again edited, but Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz, that's what he's referring to is a debate that they had between the two of them. So, yeah, I think, it's an interesting perspective, Rev. I think that's great. I'm thinking about that a little bit more, but as I read this thing, you're right. It's not as big as I think, in my opinion, this says, if you're a Christian, box, okay, there's the box, Christian, then we as Christians are mandated to support Israel. You get very specific in that. You hit it with a broad brushstroke and talk about people. I totally agree. But now all of a sudden we're going to drag God into this thing, and God says as Christians we have to support Israel. Whoa, there's a big leap right there, and that I don't agree with. Right? I think that now we're taking faith and we're placing it upon a justification that we have to do this because now it becomes political. Okay? Everything else.
My God beats up your God.
That's right. My God told me to do that.
Right. And again, that's wrong on all sides of the equation.
I agree. Totally. And then the last sentence in that paragraph is to support Israel, first of all, means to support Israel's right to exist. Really? Israel has a right to exist. I think I take a little bit of an exception to that. Do Jewish people have a right to have some place to live and hang their hat and thrive and raise families and all that? Of course. But there's no right involved here to be able to say, I have a right to draw those lines on the map, and that's mine now.
That's beyond existence.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a right to own. I'm thinking of, again, the song from the Disney movie Pocahontas. You think you own whatever land you land on.
Yeah,
well, I do because God told me it was my land.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's not a right.
No,
That's ego-driven control
Yeah.
for power and for resources.
and justification to take stuff.
Now, do they have a right to exist? Absolutely. Do they
that's-
have a right to exist on that particular plot of land? Absolutely they do. I agree, but don't say that somebody else doesn't have a right to exist there.
This is, yes. And typically the way the world works, its possession is 9/10 of ownership. And so we've been going through this since beginning of time, where if I'm going to hang on to that land, I'm going to have to fight for it. I'm going to have to fight everybody off, and now I can claim it, okay? So we have this whole thing, but we start talking about rights, and that takes everything to a different level. All
When
of a sudden-
rights eliminate the idea that we can coexist,
Yeah.
either on the earth or on the plot of land, we're in trouble.
Yes,
That's a right that's man-made and not God-given.
totally, because enough said there, because we can do all sorts of kind of stuff saying, let me see where I want to bring, oh, no, don't worry. We're going to get there. All right.
Okay.
So next paragraph.
The nation of Iran does not believe Israel has the right to exist. Iran has its stated objective to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, and there are other countries that believe that as well. But in doing so, they are going against God himself. Unlike any other nation in the world, God created the nation of Israel. Israel was his idea, and he said Israel will endure forever.
Boy, there's a bunch of meat in that one. For me, anyway. I hear that kind of stuff, and it's hard for me to look for the good in that, other than the fact that in the beginning, yes, Israel, they have said that they want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. I mean,
That's wrong.
that's
Let me
been
be
said.
real clear. That
Right.
is absolutely
Totally.
against everything I believe.
I completely agree with that.
They
That's
have
right.
their right to exist and should not be persecuted.
Yes, I completely agree. Exist, but then you have to back up a little bit. Exist where? Exist how? Then you get into that. We've already gone there. But when you pull the God card, when you come and say it's theirs because God said so.
Yep.
Now, do you think the Palestinians are saying the same thing? Why can't they say the same thing?
Yeah.
Same God, right? Came out of the Bible, right? So who's got the bigger God? Who's got the bigger stick, all right? So the minute you pull that card, you get all self-righteous. You think that's going to further your cause when it really doesn't, all right? All it does is piss people off, or on the other side, get them all worked up into a frenzy, and they don't even think about, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Get everybody, they are going against God himself. Oh,
It's using this God and religion as a weapon.
yeah.
And I'll be honest, the Bible gets used as a weapon.
Oh.
Often it's a historical document to a point. It's
Mhm.
allegorical, it's metaphorical as well. But we've said, no, this is the document that says God's given us the right to kick you out or to have you not coexist with us. And that's wrong on all sides. I don't care what your religion is.
Right.
It is wrong. I
Yes.
believe in a God that that the diversity of a God expression as each of us, that like cells. I thought about St. Paul saying, how dare the hand say to the foot, I have no need of you? Or the foot say to the ear, I have no need of you. The reality is
Right.
it's all part of one body. And that's the missing piece here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all belong to the body, that piece of land. We all belong here. And if we
Yeah.
can't coexist, it's because the ego is driving it. And I will call everybody out, all governments and all nations involved that are doing that.
But that hasn't happened, and it's been
No,
just running rampant
because God's on my side.
for thousands of years. All right, so let's see. God created, it was his idea, and he said Israel will endure forever. So now again, all of a sudden you're up against God. So we can do whatever we want because we're fighting for, right? So this is, and there's more of this to come. We're gonna flesh more of that saying out, but it's all gonna follow along that sort of same rational thinking.
On probably another podcast.
That's
Israel as a divine
gonna do
idea,
that.
not as a plot of land. Not as a country, but as
I
an
love that.
idea and an energy and a way of being as humans.
I love that. So that's where we're going to have to end this one, man. We're there.
Oh, gosh.
We got time, okay? So episode 2, part 2, we got it.
There's a lot more to dissect.
We got
there.
more goodies, all right? So we're going to sign off on this episode as part 1, and you
Come
can
back.
unbuckle now.
Catch
all
us
right?
next week.
Everybody can unbuckle. But then, yes, we're going to continue in this same vein. We're just going to pick right up where we are right now. So hopefully I will say this when we do the next episode, try to listen to the first one first.
Yep.
All right. And we're going to continue to share some thoughts and let us know what you think. And we'll be back next week with part 2.
Sounds good.